Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us at FEMA headquarters today, home of the National Response Coordination Center. I know everyone in this room and on the President's team has been moved by the images and stories of people who are suffering in Texas. We want to make sure you all know that we are working right now to provide assistance as quickly as we can. Right now, we are focused on rescue operations and will move into recovery operations later in the week. But today, we are deeply concerned with those in Houston and surrounding areas who are stranded or in need of immediate assistance. People need help, and we are working to provide it. While the hurricane-force winds have diminished, I want to stress that we are not out of the woods yet, not by a long shot. Harvey is still a dangerous and historic storm. According to the National Weather Service, who you'll hear from shortly, rainfall amounts as much as 2 feet have occurred in the Houston metro area, and life-threatening flooding will occur over a large portion of South Central and Southeast Texas in the coming days. Rivers won't crest until later this week. It is vitally important for those in Texas and Louisiana to monitor your local radio and TV stations for updated emergency information, and as always, listen to the direction of your local officials. If you are in the affected areas, we are asking that you please only call 911 if you have immediate need for medical attention or evacuation assistance. If local officials deem it safe, please take time to check on your neighbors and friends, particularly the elderly who may need assistance. The department, through FEMA, has been working in close coordination with the state and local officials throughout the region for many days in preparing for Hurricane Harvey. And under the President's direction, we have made every resource available to respond to this historic storm. The partnership at every level of government has been exceptional, and I want to thank Governor Abbott and Governor Edwards for all they have done. We understand that there are challenges before us, particularly in Houston, but we are committed to getting the resources local officials need as soon as possible. Finally, I'd like to thank the thousands of civil servants, first responders, and volunteers in Texas and around the country, including those here in DC at FEMA, who have worked tirelessly throughout the weekend and will continue to carry out our response and recovery efforts over the weeks and months to come. You have provided a tremendous service to your fellow Americans, and we thank you. With that, I'd like to turn it over to FEMA Administrator Brock Long to walk us through our response efforts.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. So emergency management, as I've been saying, is about partnership. My goal as the emergency manager of FEMA, or the Federal Emergency Management Administrator, is to unify the efforts of all these agencies, not only these guys here, the agencies that they represent, but basically the firepower of the federal government. And what we want to do is be able to have a unified effort, coordinated effort down to support and give the state of Texas everything they need to fill gaps, to bolster their operations and capability. They set the mission priorities right now. We fall in line to support those. Right now, this is still an ongoing situation. We're not at recovery yet. We're thinking and planning for recovery. We have recovery teams down in Texas, but right now this mission it's very important. This is a life safety, life sustaining mission. We're trying to help with bolster the efforts to do swift water rescue, search and rescue, over a huge county jurisdiction, over 30 to 50 counties possibly impacted in Texas. Just because we see what's going on in Houston, these impacts are not only across Houston, but 50 different counties within Texas. We're also going to see a tremendous amount of rainfall into southwest Louisiana. We're asking citizens to still listen to their local emergency managers, county judges, or parish presidents for life safety, warning order communication. So right now, in addition to search and rescue, the next objective is to stabilize disaster survivors. Once we move them, we're able to extract them from different areas and rescue them. We've got to get them into shelters. This shelter mission is going to be a very heavy lift. We're anticipating over 30,000 people being placed in shelters temporarily to basically stabilize the situation and provide for their care. Next, we are ready and already deploying essential life-sustaining commodities. We have a tremendous amount of supplies in the state, and the state is pulling our resources already to be able to put those out. It's occurring all over the state of Texas. Through our partners at the Army Corps of Engineers, we are working to restore power. So we are providing emergency generators for critical infrastructure to support things such as 911 centers or other critical infrastructure within the state of Texas. Finally, we're also providing emergency communications. We're trying to help the state reroute 911 centers, but also making sure that we are interoperable between the federal, state, and local responders that are out there on the ground. Security is also a main concern. The state, as you know, has mobilized a huge amount of National Guard, but we have also, the Secretary has been leaning forward. We've activated the DHS, what we call Homeland Security Surge Capacity Force. We are putting law enforcement down to bolster that effort as well as other DoD assets that are going down. Right now, here's what I need you to know. This helping Texas overcome this disaster is going to be far greater than FEMA coordinating the mission of the entire federal government. We need citizens to be involved. Texas, this is a landmark event. We have not seen an event like this. You could not draw this forecast up. You could not dream this forecast up. It's been a very challenging effort for the National Weather Service, who's been putting out great information. We've been telling people that this is coming. It's still ongoing, but you couldn't draw this situation up. The bottom line is that it's going to continue on. We need the whole community, not only the federal government forces, but this is a whole community effort from all levels of government, and it's going to require the citizens getting involved. So here's what I want you to know as a citizen if you're wanting to help. Right off the bat, we have a website, www.nvoad.org. That's nvoad.org. nvoad.org. If you are looking to help, start there. It'll have a whole host of non-governmental and religious organizations that are seeking help and being able to support Texas. We have to make sure that donations and volunteers are managed correctly to be effective down to the state and local levels. That's one way to start. Underneath the President's Disaster Declaration, we have turned on what we call individual assistance programs. We're expecting, based on this event, over 450,000 potential registers of disaster victims. That is a huge number, but we are ready to go to process. We've already processed over nearly 15,000 calls over the last 24 hours of getting citizens registered. What we want to do is be able to get you in. Hopefully you qualify for disaster assistance, and we'll start processing and setting up your case management to go forward there. To do that, if you have access to a website, go to disasterassistance.gov. Again, disasterassistance.gov. If you do not have access to a website and you do have a phone, call 1-800-621-FEMA. 1-800-621-FEMA. Again, I'm asking for all citizens to get involved here. Donate your money, figure out how you can get involved as we help Texas find a new normal going forward after this devastating disaster. Right now, what I would like to do is also, I would like to push it over to the National Weather Service Director, Louis Ugolini.
So, just give a short update here on what's happening and what we expect over the next 5 days. The circulation of Harvey has been drifting southeast toward the coast. It's currently located over Matagorda Bay. The official track forecast, if we can bring up slide 1, the official track forecast has the tropical storm moving up the coast of the Texas, toward the Texas-Louisiana area within the next 5 days. There is still uncertainty as we're dealing with this track. The storm itself is creating its own circulation even aloft. So this track forecast still represents a difficult forecast for us. So we have to pay attention as we move forward. Very heavy rains are currently associated with an intense band of rainfall extending north-northwest over Beaumont, Port Arthur, and into southwest and western Louisiana. Earlier this morning, there were reports of 5 to 6 inches of rain per hour associated with this band, and there was some unofficial reports up to 8 inches. With respect to Houston, we're in a lull right now. Those bands that had been sitting over Houston, one is now shifted off to the northeast. We have a report of over 30 inches of rain so far near Houston. There's a broad area of 15 to 20 inches and even greater in that whole south central part of Texas. If we can have the rainfall map, yeah, that one. This is a 1 to 5 day forecast. As I noted, Houston is in a lull right now, but we'll get back into the moderate to heavy rains later today and then into tomorrow, and we'll see how long that lasts. It all depends on that track. And there's about 15 to 20 inch rainfall still forecast associated with that max. And notice also the shift towards the east, southwest Louisiana, western Louisiana, and going into northeast Texas is included, and we need to watch that area very carefully. If we go to the last map, this is a map of the current flooding. We have major flooding occurring already in the Houston area, and you see that area blossoming out north and west of Houston. The peak flow and depth of this flood will max out in the Wednesday-Thursday time frame. And this does include the projected rainfall that we're expecting. Even though we see on this map that currently we don't see flooding in eastern Texas and western Louisiana, this was as of 4 a.m. With these heavy rainfalls now occurring, this will quickly change. And we should also emphasize, in this case, the flooding will be very slow to recede. We are seeing catastrophic flooding, and this will likely expand and will likely persist as it's slow to recede. I just want to emphasize, from a Weather Service perspective, we're working in partnership with the federal, state, and local emergency management and water resource management community. We've been working with them since last weekend in anticipation of this storm, as the models and forecasters started showing the potential for this storm. And we're standing here today to emphasize that you listen to your local officials. They're there to save your life. So please listen to them as this storm unfolds. Thank you.
All right, folks, I will be departing after this news conference down to be with Governor Abbott in Texas to make sure I put boots on the ground and understand the situation that's it's a dynamic situation that's going to be constantly developing. One thing with the Director of National Weather Service, we're having to rescue, local officials are having to rescue a lot of people getting in their cars and driving into flooded areas. You're doing a couple things. One, you can kill yourself. Two, you're going to put the Commandant's people in danger, not only his, but we have Customs Border Patrol, we have Department of Interior assets, all out there trying to support the state and locals. We got to stop doing that, folks, and it's pulling resources away from the people that truly need it by doing that. We are also in the process, we're evaluating and putting forward, hopefully, we're evaluating a Governor John Bell Edwards disaster declaration that was put into, so hopefully we will expedite that coming up soon. Yes, Joel.
Yeah, where are you going exactly today? And related to that is, who's in charge of this response? Who's coordinating everything?
Excellent question. So all disasters begin and end at the local level. And the way emergency management works is, I am not the incident commander over the state of Texas. The bottom line is that it starts at the local level. When a local government's capacity has been exceeded to handle the disaster and what they're facing, then they call upon either county-to-county mutual aid, or they call upon their state resources, which you're already seeing. The governor declares a state of emergency. He's put that, which basically gives the governor the ability to mobilize all state resources down to support his counties. And then once the state's capacity was exceeded over several days ago, they asked for a presidential disaster declaration. The president moved in an expedited and very swift, one of the quickest time frames I've ever seen, to approve the disaster declaration so we could mobilize our resources to help. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Renee Marsh with CNN. I understand, and we all know, that there are several refineries as well as Superfund sites, so contaminated sites. in this region where we're seeing a lot of flooding. So my question is, do you all have an assessment as far as what's in the water at this point, and what are the health implications for the people who are wading through the water? I mean, we're talking about a lot of toxic chemicals, specifically from those Superfund sites.
You know, at this time, it's still a developing situation. We're so focused on life safety. We understand that the environment piece is going to be big in this case, but we do not have accurate information.
And I have the
right
same,
now
for HHS Secretary Price. I mean, do you have any, as far as what you're learning about the potential health impacts for people?
As Brock said, it's very early in this, but what we do know is that the water in Corpus Christi and in Victoria area, recommendation for boiling of the water before consumption. The good news is that the work that's been done, the pre-deployment that's been done, as Brock says, there's significant assets, water assets there that are available for folks, and that's the challenge that we have, is getting them to people.
And also, just in terms of the refineries, most of the refineries exercised voluntary shutdown before the storm hit. Very prudent measure, and that will help with any environmental issue.
Is the number of 24%, 25%, a quarter of them already shut down, correct?
I believe, I do not know the exact number, but it was, most of them did do a voluntary shutdown well in advance of landfall.
Administrator Brock, you have, normally we hear emergency officials say, let the first responders handle it. You've just called for volunteers, for American citizens to jump in and help Texas. What does that say about the situation right now?
I mean, this is a landmark event for Texas. Texas has never seen an event like this. This is going to eclipse Ike. It's going to eclipse Allison that occurred in 2001. And based on the benchmarks of those storms, we know it's going to be large.
Mr. Administrator, we've seen images of the Coast Guard heroically rescuing people off rooftops, citizens going in their boats to pull neighbors out of houses. Images we really haven't seen in this capacity since Katrina. Should there have been a bigger effort to evacuate Houston and surrounding areas than we saw, given the amount of flooding?
Yep, that's a great question. So all evacuation decisions are made at the local level within Texas, but right now, I believe that every local official, state official, including us, we're operating with the best information we've been provided at the time. As I said earlier, the National Weather Service has done a heck of a job setting this up and letting people know that this is going to be torrential rainfall inland in an inland event. The problem with forecasting rainfall is it's one of the toughest things to do. You can say that it's going to rain over 5 days over a 30-county jurisdiction, but pinpointing exactly what watershed that rain is going to go into, it's dang near impossible to figure that out. And unfortunately, the city of Houston's huge. It's 2 to 3 million people. Pulling the trigger on that is an incredibly difficult situation. A lot of times, when you're facing a city like that in a rainfall event, you have to ask people to shelter in place because of the time frame that you're given. The time frame to evacuate the city of Houston could take days, literally days. So I believe that everybody's doing the best that they can right now with the information that they've been provided and have.
Quick follow-up. Do people need to get out? I mean, do people need to start thinking about getting out now? You're talking about another 15 to 20 inches of rain over the next 2 to 3 days.
People need to listen to the local officials right now in the Houston area, because I do not want to step on the governor. I do not want to step on local officials and confuse the message, because the most important thing during a disaster is a consistent message down to the public. So right now, we need them to listen to the local officials in each one of their jurisdictions.
Where in Texas are you? Is that a decision that needs to be reviewed after the fact, so we learn from this situation? The decision to have people stay in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is listen. After every disaster, we do what are called after-action reports. We have to go down and exhaustively get better after every disaster. It started, and we've been doing those solidly since Katrina. I mean, we want to get better, guys. We're in the business of saving lives and helping people. We don't want people to go through hardship and get killed during disasters. We always strive to get better with the resources that we have. So there will be extensive after-action reports done, not just by FEMA, but working in conjunction with, our local governments, non-governmental organizations, to the state as well. So yes, we will strive to get better. But right now, guys, it's not a time to start pointing blame. Right now, what I need the media to do is organize the efforts, to help us organize citizen efforts to ultimately help Texas. These people are in need.
Where in
Fleet.
Texas are you going, sir?
I believe I'm going to Corpus Christi right off the bat, and then later San Antonio.
And then
right
Senator Ted Cruz yesterday mentioned that one of the big requests he's passing along from local officials is for more high water rescue capabilities. What more could have been done in advance to have those in place, and where does that stand in terms of providing those capabilities?
So, when it comes to high water, swift water rescue and search and rescue, each county, each state, and federal government all have a certain capacity, right? So what happens is that once again, when the locals, we pre-positioned a lot of search and rescue before the disaster declaration was ever approved by President Trump. We pre-positioned everything that we basically have down and in support of the state and local efforts. Now that those resources are there, we're basically at the direction of the governor to ultimately help the local governments. This is not just a federal government response. There's something called EMAC, the Emergency Management Assistance Compact. The state is also calling upon search and rescue, swift water rescue teams from all 50 states. There are teams coming in from all over the country, whether it's Chinook helicopters, swift water rescue, all of this is emergency management at work. It is, again, it's a partnership.
The National Flood Insurance Program.
I just want to make one comment on the rescue too, and the Commandant might want to add. I talked to Senator Cruz yesterday. One of the challenges with this storm is that it has to be safe for the rescue officials also. And so a lot of the rescue could not start till yesterday morning, just for the persons. And even now, air rescue is barely operationally safe. Commandant, if you want to add anything.
Unlike Katrina, which had passed clear and we had VFR flight conditions, we're still operating in the midst of a tropical storm. So our flight crews, and we've got multiple flight crews, we have thrown every Coast Guard asset available at this response. But there are conditions where it's just not safe to fly. We've also brought in over 27 fast response teams to deal with this situation, but integrate that with the local responders, so this is a coordinated response as well. The good news is thousands of lives are being saved. And that is our objective right now, and we are not out of this by a long shot. So we're also postured to be able to sustain this level of effort as well.
Coming on, half of your helicopters operationally are there. Can you take more? Will you bring more? Are there more assets for Coast Guard to bring to bear in Texas?
Upon request, we will bring more in. We've also got great support by Customs and Border Protection. Air National Guard is bringing resources in. The other key part of this is safety of flight and just coordinating that airspace. The Air Maritime Operations Center, run by CBP, is providing that airspace deconfliction.
Do you want to talk about drones in the area where your crews might be operating?
So Department of Interior, they use drones in fire response technology, and so they're able to use this for damage assessment.
I was talking about individuals possibly flying while you're in flight operations?
Yeah, we are concerned about that. We have not encountered, but certainly we're flying at very low altitudes to effect rescues. We're monitoring every media source available. What's coming into the call centers, but even what's out of the Twitter feeds. We're looking at Google Maps to see where those Twitter feeds are coming from, if there's a concentration of calls, so we can be a little bit more even proactive to determine where we are. We've got 11 aircraft that are orbiting the area at the same time, looking for oil spills. We have not detected an oil spill yet, but we're actively monitoring that under ESF 10 on oil and hazardous response. But this is not the time to private citizens to monitor what is going on. This is a very congested airspace. We want to save lives. Thank you.
All right, we have time for one more question.
The National Flood Insurance Program runs out of funding on September 30th. Is there something Congress can do to early that up? There's going to be a lot of pressure on that program. Can you tell us the status of that program and what you need?
There's a lot Congress can do. They can reauthorize the NFIP program in a multi-year. They can do a multi-year authorization of the program, and they got a real opportunity to rebuild the business framework as well as how we fund insurance going forward in floodplains. Right now, what people should know in Texas, if you're an NFIP policyholder, call your insurance agent. Go ahead and start that ball rolling. We've mobilized roughly 1,300 people underneath the NFIP program already. They're already staged in Texas, ready to go. This is going to be a huge lift of getting that in. We do have the reserves and the funding to be able to address the flood as well. So,
You have
thank you,
enough
folks.
money to address this flood?
Yeah, now, right now, under the NFIP, yes, we do, but, you know, funding will come, you know, later down the road.
Are your number estimates 450,000 people filing for disaster aid, 30,000 in shelters? That seems a little low when we're talking about.
It's a moving target, guys. You know, let's be clear. Every number that we're putting out right now is going to change in 30 minutes, okay, because of the dynamic situation. So we have to come up with some general understanding of what we're about to get into based on past precedent and based on modeling, all kinds of things. So, you know, let's don't get fixated on those numbers. Let's remember this is a dynamic situation that's ongoing. So, folks, we need the power of the media to help save lives as well, and we appreciate you all being here. But I'm anxious to get downrange to be with the governor.
Will the
Thank you.
president join you tomorrow?
The president is going tomorrow. I'll be accompanying him. Mr. Long is going down today to oversee the operations led by and work with the governor.
Is there
Thank you.
anything
Thank you.
Louisiana should take heed of or take notice of in the wake of? all
Listen
that's
to their
happening?
local officials. Listen to their local officials. They are being threatened. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.